What's going on, NLC? All right, we got about half the room over here. What's going on, NLC? Now we're talking. First to my friend and brother in the movement, Mark Riddle, who, leadership is lonely. And when you can actually have friends in the midst of this, you become more and more grateful, especially given that we have a mutual fond of good bourbon. We can make that happen right now. But to your president, Mark Riddle, let's put our hands together for him right now. To the leadership, to the board, obviously to your chair, to Chris Kelly, all those assembled, I say good evening. To everybody a part of NLC, I say what up though, all right? Just so we make sure we break the ice in that way. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you have done for me and for us over the years. You know, it's always ironic for me to be in Pittsburgh. As a Jets fan, the Steelers crushed my hopes a few years ago in the AFC Championship game. It was freezing cold. Jamaicans don't like the cold. It doesn't really work out very well for us in that way. But Northwestern beat Pitt in the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. So I had my sports redemption right there, so I'm feeling good. Some of y'all look uncomfortable about that. It's going to be okay. Big Ten rules. It's okay. It's all right here. You know, you want more sports feedback, follow me on Twitter at MR Mike Blake. I'll give you all the sports feedback you need all day, every day. So birthdays are always reflective moments for me. Yeah, it's in large part because I'm a Christmas baby. You know, and sometimes I get asked, well, does that mean you get one gift or two? I'm always going to get my two gifts. Let's be clear about that right now. You know, there was one time I only got one gift, and that didn't work out very well for everybody at that time. But, you know, birthdays mean a lot because, you know, I didn't have it guaranteed to be here. I was born with a heart murmur. You know, I was in the ICU for 4 weeks, and you know, my mama told me after my daddy passed that the portrait of the Lord's Supper that was always surrounding us in my bedroom was a reminder that in case I didn't make it, the Lord was always watching over me. You know, along the way, you have moments when you have to have those reflection moments. You know, I had a near fatal car accident in 2001, fell asleep at the wheel. The only reason I didn't go over the cliff in the hills of Pennsylvania was the amount of luggage that was in the car in the hands of God. 6 days before that, wrote out something to myself, not realizing the impact that it would have. Said, dear God, may today be my greatest day, greater than the great day I had a day before, but my goal has not been met unless tomorrow is the greatest of them all. You know, for the last 22 years, I've been preaching, while also now having the opportunity to live out my dream of being in elected office. Not knowing when it would happen and how it would happen, but it did, fortunately. So last year, I was able to have a different kind of appreciation around the holidays. I was able to partner up with Willie Colon, who, former Jet, you know, engaged Bronxite, and he wanted to bring gifts to people in the community, a lot of the young kids who didn't have gifts in their communities. We were able to have this toy giveaway, and we gave away hot chocolate to the kids, and the long line that was there was freezing cold, but everyone was still happy. They were engaged and they were grateful for what was happening there. And despite the long lines, there was a deep level of appreciation, and I had to make sure to think about that when I was preparing for today, because it was a restaurant that was owned by immigrants, and let's be clear, all of us are immigrants. You know, anytime says someone differently, remind them of that. Across the street from a police station where there have been challenges that happened in our communities between the cops and the police over the years, in the shadows of the original Bronx County Courthouse, which was where the Bronx became the Bronx in 1914, we were able to be there, and we provided joy and we provided a chance for kids. It was after the event where we had a deeper appreciation, where it wasn't just about a gift, it was about giving love. Clyde Thompson, a local community organizer who's been engaged at Forrest McKinley houses, he texted me afterwards, and he said, I just want to share with you a text that I just received. And I would say that in my time of being in office, it's still the text that has had the most impact of me of any constituent. It was a young woman who had said, thank you. I have 3 kids, and this was the first time I was able to give them a gift. Process that for a second. Multiple kids in the family had gone through the holidays and saw the experience of the holidays, and because of what we were able to do on that one day, they had a gift. Now, let's be clear. This is not about celebrating one faith over another. We all have our joys and beauties that happen across the board, whether it be Hanukkah or Christmas or Ramadan, whatever your respective faith may be, Hindu, Buddhist, whether it be you're atheist or agnostic. It's not about that. It's about that we were able to give someone hope. And when you're a real leader, you understand that you are celebrating the commitment of combining your talent with your passion to provide change and inspiration. That's what a real leader does. It was a moment where I realized that I found my life-changing assignment. And that's why we're here tonight. To ask you, what is your life-changing assignment? See, during these tumultuous times in our cities, we have a multitude of issues that affect our lives in many negative ways. It can make you feel that people don't believe in our communities, whether it be criminal injustice, whether it be education that needs to come to our communities, whether it be budget impasses where you have people that think it's more appropriate to sit on the beach than make sure their schools are open. Man, when you have folks that want to talk about health care, but they're actually not providing health care. But, oh, by the way, they can carve out their own health care plans to make sure that they're still covered. And let's be clear that health care that they're providing is not health care. It's a tax cut for the rich. But we'll get to that in a moment. Maybe it's men who are sitting in rooms that are trying to tell women what to do with their bodies and creating policies that don't do anything to help women at all in any regard, whether it be people that for some reason still want to use religion as a reason for discrimination and try to say that we won't stand up for the LGBTQ community because of their faith in their scripture. Well, I remind people often to stop being selective with your scriptures to try to validate your discrimination. You understand that as millennials, we are the leaders now. We're the largest generation of voters in history now. It's no longer the baby boomers, it's us. But that means we have a deeper responsibility. That means that we can't continue to have scenarios where in 2016, 50% of eligible millennials voted, but in 2014, only 20% did. You can't say you're being a leader part of the time. Leadership demonstrates that I'm excited about being consistent with my leadership all of the time. And ask yourself again, as I go through these challenges, have I found my life-changing assignment? If I'm given the indescribable honor to have the sun grace my face another day, will I use this opportunity to help someone else to rise? If I get to return home, will I actually take a moment to stop and see that, you know what, I might pass someone that's homeless on the street today, and maybe I should just ask myself, what did I do to help them? Because maybe if I lost a check, I could be in that same predicament that they were in. I often tell anyone in my midst, my mama was homeless. I remember in the Bronx selling dinners on Saturday afternoons so we could pay our rent. When I see them, I think about what could have been unless someone fought for me. In the same ways, ask yourself that whenever you get to enjoy a meal tonight, that there's a child that's hungry somewhere in your community. And don't just talk to me about what you're doing in New Leaders Council for a retreat. Ask yourself, what will you do when you get back home? That's why we're here on today, to say our organization is not called the Former Leader Organization. This is not about celebrating the old guard, and I have respect for the old guard, but let's be clear, we are the New Leaders Council. That means that you have to have an appreciation for now. Not just the past, which I recognize there's a necessity of appreciating the past, but what are we going to do now? And what excitement will we have about bringing something new? We have to remind people that when they tell you, well, it's not your turn, well, I don't need you to give me my turn. We create our own turns. Our title suggests that we are the latest descendants in this great generational project known as justice. That we are here not to do it alone, but to be a part of multiple voices of change. You are not here to change someone's life by yourself. It doesn't work that way. Again, we're not called New Leader Council. Which means some folks need to understand that if you want to be a leader by yourself, I don't need you here. What are we doing to help change the game and raise it to inexplicable levels of elevation so that someone can have their life changed for the better? History is our guide that when you come together as leaders, great things can happen. When you think about how many young and old came before us to show us the examples of leadership, you should be excited about where we can go as a people. Millions had to believe in Gandhi so that they can underscore the necessity of peace. Masses had to assemble themselves to show the greatness of Dorothy Height or Dorothy Day. Many people had to come together to say, we believe in Malala the same way we believe in Dr. King. You have to understand that in order for you to be a leader, people have to believe in you. But will you believe in them? Will you understand that you're not supposed to do this by yourself? Will you understand that we have responsibilities as leaders? Our ability, our true obligation to change the world happens to start in our communities. That means we come here for retreats, but this is not just about today. No, it's about being the catalyst for tomorrow. It's the understanding that will empower someone to do something greater than they can even see, to imagine things that otherwise seem impossible. Many of us may not understand the impact of our work, but let me tell you this, as someone who stands before you who almost died not once but twice, I don't take any day for granted. Because any day you get a chance to be here, do something, help someone, change life for the better. It is not about you padding your resume. It's about making sure you change a community. It's our leadership that will help change our communities. It's our embodiment that will bring something greater. We want you to be excited about training. We want you to have a pride in being prepared, because the reality is you can't have progress unless you're prepared. You know, I remember often when President Obama, then Senator Obama, was telling us about the necessity of having pride in your preparation. And we had won 12 elections in a row, the caucuses and primaries back in 2008, and several of our staff were in the elevator with him. And he said, no, Senator, why are you not more excited about what's happening right now? And he said, well, I'm going to tell you like Magic Johnson said before, I'm not here for conference championships. I'm here for titles. And it was a mindset of, in order for me to have continual success, I have to be prepared. So anytime you have trainings and you get people in the room and you organize them, you are preparing the next level of greatness that you may not even realize. You don't have to know their name and they may not know your name, but you will know the name of someone's child will be better because of you. It's understanding that you have an excitement about what's happening here, that we get to return home with an internal fire that's even greater than before. See, I see young leaders that are in this room and I'm excited about what's possible. Anytime they say that there's not talent, anytime they try to tell you we don't have people, anytime they try to say that we don't have someone that's ready to step up, tell them we have NLC. They talk about what's happening across the country. We can talk about the excitement and energy that's happening all across the country. Now, I got to tell you, there's something that's mobilizing when you can have the first Latina speaker in Colorado in Crisanta Duran, and the first black speaker in New York in Carl Hasty, and the first openly gay speaker in Tina Kotek in Oregon. Things are happening when you are mobilized, but it happened because millennials said, we're not sitting around any longer. We're not going to allow you to tell us that it's our turn, it's our moment, it's our time. No, we're going to create our own time right now and move the needle in great ways. Think about this. The people in Texas who said, you know what? We will not allow the Hispanic Leadership Conference to happen for state legislators, because if you want to have SB4, well, then we can't be here. And they moved the conference and say, we reject this. You have to be confident of calling out nonsense. So I say it real clear. When you have someone that will promote racism, sexism, misogyny, discrimination in any way, don't be silent about that. Call it out and do something about it. Do something about it means you have the opportunity to be here on today. Today, marking the 6-month anniversary of the Women's March. Saying we're not going to sit by silently. We're not going to allow you just to tell us what's supposed to happen in this way. We're going to reject this nonsensical talk that's locker room talk. I don't need to be any damn locker room, and that's acceptable. And be real clear that as a man, I'm also a feminist. And don't be hesitant on saying that at any time. But in the same way, if someone attacks women, you stand up. If someone attacks the Muslim community, stand up. If someone attacks the LGBTQ community, stand up. If they attack blacks and Latinos and Asians and whites, stand up. If they attack the Jewish community, stand up. If they attack any one of us, they attack all of us. But we have to do something more to say something differently will occur. You want to talk about leadership? Look at Jewel Jones in Michigan. 22 years old. Just was elected, took out an incumbent, but it's not the only leadership that's happened. See, I know a little bit about NLC leadership. My first and my second chief of staff were NLC alum. Whenever I see Aaron, my heart swells. See, I still vividly remember the conversation when Aaron said he was going to move on. Now, it was that moment when you knew the breakup was about to happen, right? You know, they sit you down for the nice dinner, but they sit near the exit. You know, that's when you know things about to jump off right there, right? And Aaron said, boss, you know I love you, but I need to go. Because I've been seeing how so many residents have been hurt with housing. And I want to start my own nonprofit to go help them. And every time I'm reading about the housing initiative, Housing Rights Initiative in the Times and Wall Street and all these different news, I'm thinking, that was NLC. That was a young leader who said, you know what, I'm going to go help somebody right now. And they may never know Aaron Carr's name, but they have a chance because of him. They have a chance because of what's happening across our country and because of you. JFK said it beautifully, whether they be young in spirit or young in age, the members of our party will never lose the youthful zest for new ideas for a better world, which has made us great. There's something that happens when young leaders step up. Greatness happens. There's no coincidence that there's greatness that exists in this room. So as we continue to step into these life-changing assignments, ask yourself, when I leave from here today, will I leave here differently? Will I leave with a different mindset? That I didn't just come here for a retreat, I came here for a purpose. I didn't just come here for a convening, I came to find my calling. Why am I here? Because someone needs me to be here. We're proud of what you're doing, yes, NLC, but I need you to do even more. I need you to understand that people believe in you and see possibilities they may not see otherwise. This is a moment for our country, for our communities to say, you know what? I'm excited about this moment. Because I often say at church, before you can have the testimony, first you have to have the test. You got to go through some things before you can really appreciate some things. You got to remind people that on their block, they may not think they have a chance, but just because you come from a particular block, that should not block your blessing, and your zip code should not deny your destiny. That's the way you have to think about things. It's an understanding, like Zora Neale Hurston said beautifully. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. Ask yourself, is 2017 going to be the year of more questions, or will NLC be the answer? My name is Michael Alexander Blake. I was named after Jamaican politicians. My mama came here and for 40 years worked at a manufacturing plant. And my daddy for 28 years mopped hospital room floors. I went to PS 79 where they said I wasn't going to be too smart to make it from there. 118 in DeWitt Clinton High School. Northwestern University, had a chance to work for a president and then go back home. But I say that to say I'm here today not just as an assembly member, but I'm here today because a question was answered the day after the election. See, emails were going off, phone calls were happening. And at 10:42 p.m., this guy named Mark Riddle sends me a text and says, you should run for DNC leadership. I didn't know what that meant, didn't understand what that meant at all. But what you have to decide is you cannot allow someone else to realize your dream. And so because NLC members across this country had my back, we went to Atlanta knowing we had put in the work for 3.5 months, knowing we had organized ourselves, knowing that the night before the election, when we counted up from 1 to 447 of DNC members, and we counted up 171 supporters, on the first ballot on that next day, we had 171 votes. And when we won that night, I was able to say we won because of NLC. I come to you to say I am forever indebted to you. I'm forever grateful for you. And the same way my family went from no house in Jamaica to the Black House at Northwestern to the White House in D.C. to the State House in Albany, now I get to travel around the country to remind people there is nothing greater, there's nothing more inspiring, there is no greater life-changing assignment than being a part of NLC. God bless you, everybody.